Okay, there we go. Good evening again. It's a nice night here in the mountains in the Hudson Valley. This is Michael Carrus again for another live stream of some tarot and conversation, and hopefully some education. Until some people come in tonight, I thought that I would just sort of touch on a few things that popped in my head as I was pulling a few cards for tonight to kind of get a sense of the flow of things. And I came up with a Fortune, which is kind of a great card, and then it led my my thoughts on a trail. And there's a subject that I wanted to speak about related to tarot. There's a lot of different uses for the cards, and some of them aren't always so obvious. One of the most underappreciated uses of the tarot is strictly from a numerological perspective. And when applying different bodies of knowledge to situations that you may not think to use that system can be very effective. As an example, numerology is very effective in finding things that are connected in a way that may not be obvious. And one of the most powerful ways to find that connection is in a system called theosophical reduction, which is this idea of taking the numbers and reducing them to their simplest form. So, for example, taking the number 15, you would add the 1 and the 5, and that would equal 6. And so 15 and 6 have this sort of intrinsic connection. The way that theosophical reduction was applied, and this can be a fun subject to maybe do a video on as opposed to discuss in a live stream, is to look at words, and in the Hebrew language, as an example, where theosophical reduction was very popularly used. Hello, I like stars. Good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are. Here in the mountains, it's about 20 minutes to 1 in the morning. And so each letter of a word would also be associated with a number. So the letter A was the number 1, the letter B was the number 2, or in this case, Aleph and Beth in Hebrew, or Bet in Hebrew, and so forth. And so you could essentially transpose a word into a series of numbers, add each number in the word to get a final result, and then take that final result and add those numbers and repeat that process until you're left with one number. And that system is called theosophical reduction. And so it reduces a thing to its core constituency, to its core character. And this is a system which is also used in other divinatory systems as well as other bodies of knowledge. Like, for instance, the I Ching. The I Ching has a series of lines. And each line, I can actually illustrate this here for well, I like stars in the room right now, and for those who watch this video after the live stream, I'm going to jump to another window here. And so what we're able to do is to, for instance, in the I Ching, you would take a, say, a hexagram that you had cast, which is a series of lines or dashes relevant to the positive or negative energy of the universe, and take the inner trigram, which in this case would be, for instance, you would take that one, this one, and this one, and make a new base for a new trigram. So that would start like this. So you're going from these three to now these three, and that gives you a new bottom trigram. And then you could do the same thing starting from here. So you take these, and then this, and then that, to do the next level. And essentially what you're doing here is looking at the core inner meaning of the original message. So if the first trigram gave you a specific interpretation for your question, what this would do would be to give you sort of the inner core, very similar to a theosophical reduction of taking a word and seeing how it relates to other words. It'd be the same idea in this case. And so this is applied in a lot of different magical systems. And what that allows us to do is to combine this knowledge so that we can maybe get some further insight in a way that we hadn't originally imagined. So, for instance, if you're running through the tarot, I have a deck here that I'm going to be using tonight to do some readings and so forth, and you come across a card, that would allow you to kind of look a little deeper into that card by looking at its major arcana equivalent. So, for instance, if I wind up with a single digit, like a 4 of cups, let's find something low here. Here's a 4 of pentacle. Pardon the lighting, but this is the 4 of pentacle. That would be related, let me find the card as well, to the Emperor, which is also a 4 in the major arcana. So that said, it can give you some further insight into sort of like the as above, so below idea. As above would be the major arcana, the first 22 cards of the tarot, and then the 4 of pentacle would be the minor arcana, the more three-dimensional physical reality, day-to-day kind of aspect of that card. Let me just zip through these quickly here. And so that said, you have a whole nother method of looking at cards that are drawn by seeing their equivalents. Another way that you can do that is to, for instance, look at all of the 4s if you pull the Emperor. If you pull the Emperor card, take all the 4s of the minors and apply it to that, and you can see sort of how the Emperor is manifested in our lives, in our day-to-day life, in the life that we see and feel, as opposed to the inner meaning of the card, which is the major arcana meaning. And so you've got this opportunity to really, in a lot of different ways, take a look at a situation from multiple angles, and to really get a good understanding now of why is this happening. What are the things that are happening that I have control of and can change? What are the things that are happening that I have no control of and can't change? And so that I have to manage to cope with or work around, and really give you the power to navigate pretty much any situation with ease, or much more ease than you would if you just kind of went in blind. And so ultimately, there's the Emperor. Ultimately, you have this correlation between the holy version, the infinite version of the energy, and that would be in the major. This, for instance, is the Emperor. Again, pardon my lighting. And then we have the Four of Pentacle, which is one example of another 4 card. And so you have the 4 in the majors that is reflected and sort of very similar to how an energy is put through a prism. The energy of the Emperor is split into 4 versions, being the Cup, Wand, Sword, and Pentacle. And that is the case for all of the major arcana. And so just as a quick little thing before I got going and doing some readings for people, I thought that would be an interesting kind of food for thought to kind of maybe get the juices flowing in your imagination. And if you find yourself in the process of wanting to learn the tarot and how to use it in your life, that's a great technique to sort of jumpstart your understanding. So that said, what I'm going to do tonight as well, as always, is to answer some questions or any questions that anybody has with a couple of cards and kind of go from there. And as the chat room pops in and out, I'll continue to kind of go through some little tidbits and small things. The intent as well is to maybe draw some attention. I will be doing hello Candy, good evening. I will be doing a full tarot sort of compendium, a video compendium of various methods of using the cards, various ways to interpret the cards, kind of rather than going the route of a lot of what you see online currently in respect to tarot, taking a much, much deeper view into the core of its art and science. And, really getting a look at how you can approach this from an infinite level as opposed to a more mechanical level. And that's my goal. Absolutely, Candy, go right ahead. Anything I can answer for you tonight, I'd be happy to try. And Eyes Like Stars, are you still with us as well? Well, my ex Matthew and I reconcile. Okay. Well, I will certainly answer the question with the cards, but I will say this before I even approach that. I will say that will I or will this happen is a yes or no question, which is fine. But sometimes you to get to the real core of the question, you can ask yourself kind of why you're asking that. Do you want to reconcile? Because if that's the case, then what we can do is look at, is there a possibility of that happening? And then add a word to the question, how can we reconcile? So it gives you this great opportunity to say, okay, well, here's something I want, and maybe maybe I'm not approaching it the right way, or there's a different way to approach, and then we can find out that way using the cards. So the first thing I'll do is just answer your initial question, which is, will we reconcile? I'm going to approach it a little differently. I'm going to approach it as reforming the question to, is it possible for us to? Because the fact is will you? Well, if you really want it to happen, it can, in a lot of cases, happen. So, but in this case, If it's not even possible, then it's better to know that now than later. So that's what I'm going to essentially look into: is it even possible? Would there be something preventing that from happening? Aquarius and Sagittarius. Does he want to reconcile with me? Okay. So all right. Let's see here. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of take a look at. We have here the Three of Wands. The Three of Wands is the card of waiting. The image, and pardon my lighting here, the image is of an individual holding a staff looking out at the water, and there's two other staffs. And the idea of that is that person is waiting for somebody else to come. And so whether this is you or him, I assume in this case, just based on the nature of your question, that it's you, but somebody's waiting. There is an idea of not yet an impatience, but potentially sort of like an anxiety about the situation. Okay, and so we have here surrounding this situation a couple of things. I have the Magician and the Four of Swords, and how I'm going to interpret this is that the core of the situation, how it kind of arose, is that, and I will say first, let me start here. Yes, there is a possibility, meaning that it's not absolutely impossible for you to reconcile. There is a way to do that. We have in the Four of Swords, one of the ways to look at this is peace, truce. But truce is not always necessarily, okay, let's get along and shake hands and let bygones be bygones. What a truce means is you and I both agree that we're not going to do anything to harm each other. It's like when countries are having a truce, it doesn't mean, okay, we're not upset with each other. It just means we've decided from now on that we're going to try to be polite about it. Type of situation. And so I do see a little bit of a sense of him internally, at least, but this may be outwardly as well. And you can, Phantom, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you again. There's this sense, whether internally or if he's doing this outwardly, and you can let me know if he's doing it outwardly, of him sort of being stubborn about it, like stoic and solid about it. Maybe even feeling, what is the right word here? I want to find the right word. Like he feels like potentially this might even be better. And so if there's something sort of preventing that from happening, Selassie, good to see you again. Then there may be some type of reason in his mind that he's justified that this is the right idea or better. And so that said, though, I do see a level of a possibility for this to take place. I don't see this as a no. And so now let's take just a quick look at how that could go about. What would be the steps that would allow you to have that success? And if you'll pardon me just for a moment, I just need to take a few steps and put on some air. It got pretty warm in here. I'm in the Hudson Valley in the upstate New York in the mountains, and it's really warm tonight. So pardon me. And you guys, please let me know if that affects the audio in a bad way, and then I'll certainly do something about that. Okay, so let's look at the waiting and what is causing the waiting to happen. Why are you waiting? Is it him? Is it something else? And maybe we can decide if there's a course of action that would be appropriate to kind of help you along. All right, there's an older woman, or this is you taking a different role, but there's an older woman This woman is somebody you go to for advice, or has given you advice, or is potentially the one that is preventing the situation. I also see movement in some fashion, whether it's a new job or a might even be related to who this woman is. I see a woman being affecting the reason why, and I will say this as well. He is also on board with that. I'm sorry if this doesn't make 100% sense. So what I'm going to do is now just kind of recap in one sentence what we just talked about here. You are in a state of waiting, and he is in a state of stubbornness and feels like he's justified for some reason. The reason that you are waiting is that there's a woman involved, whether that's on your end or his. It could be an aunt, a cousin, a mother, a grandmother on your side, or it could be an older woman that has an interest in him, or it could be his mother or his sister, aunt, so on. But there's a bug in somebody's ear that's preventing this situation from moving forward, and he's on board with that. He's not being manipulated so easily. It's more like they're just agreeing with him, and so they're reinforcing the lack of there being movement in your direction. And now, what you can do about that. So now we have a sort of an understanding potentially of why you're being forced to wait, if you want to put it that way. And so now let's look at one of the possibilities of what could be done to maybe move that along. Okay, well, can't. There's no way to expedite it. That's not going to be effective. So what I would say is that I see the end of something is the way that would change. Something has to end. Whether this is there's a relationship or another girl or another woman, or there is this person that is the bug in his ear is going to go away somehow. And there's going to be an opportunity, an opening, once that takes place. So I hope that kind of cleared up or answered a little bit what you were looking for, to give you some a vector, like a direction to consider your next move in respect to that. And you really need to ask yourself, is it something I want to do? Is there something here that's maybe you want to look at a little deeper? But I hope that was able to answer your question or help you out. These types of situations can be complicated because there's so many factors that affect how we feel. And unfortunately, our decisions are made based on what we're feeling at that moment. No matter how much we like to think we have control of ourselves, it's at the moment that the decision is made, what we're feeling then is what matters. And so we have to do the best that we can. Absolutely can, Selassie, sure, of course. That we have to be diligent to not ignore some of the factors that we can't control. And maybe allow for that whenever possible. So if there is somebody else affecting him, then you have to sort of be patient a little bit and say, okay, well, how do I... You can't sometimes undermine somebody else who's trying to hold on to him without you looking like the bad guy. I mean, I don't know if that came out right, but essentially you can wind up looking bad by addressing that situation inappropriately, so that you don't want to kind of push him further away, if your goal is to want to be back together. Do I see? Yes, actually I did. That was in there. There is this sense of, and not only just love, but there was like an idea of like an empowerment, like a this person is making him feel empowered. But in your case, I saw not even just like a love, but there was an idea of like a almost like a peace, like there's a calm around you, or there's a another way to put that maybe would be that there's this idea that he feels like he can be a certain way around you, and you allow for that, and it gives him sort of a calmness. Shantae, hello, good evening, good to see you. And so that's where I would kind of say about that. Okay, so next I think, let's see. Did you have a question tonight, Phantom, or are you coming to hang out and talk, or what's, did you want me to answer something for you? I'm going to take a sip while you guys type. Thank you, Shantae, for joining the channel. This is a brand new channel. I had my first test run last night. This is my second stream ever. I've been reading tarot for 30 years. And just finally decided to take this to YouTube and try to build a community of like-minded people on my channel. Okay, no problem, Phantom. Sure thing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use a different deck for that. That's a good question, Phantom, and I'm going to use a different deck. This is my special. This is a great box. My girlfriend bought me this actually at a thrift store, a thrift shop. There's a lot of an antique store rather. There's a lot of antique stores up in the mountains. And so I put my cards in this. This is a great little box for a tarot box, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen these. These are just great because they really fit perfect. And on the inside, you've got that kind of felt that keeps them from sliding around too much, and I really like that a lot. And besides, it's a pretty box. So when you start talking about new relationships and things like that, I like to sometimes pull this one out. It's a very powerful deck in the symbolism, and it really allows for a lot of pretty nice stuff. Thank you, Shantae. I really appreciate that. Alright, I'm going to just give it a quick cut and then go from there. Alrighty, so, and I'm just going to test something out, so pardon me guys while I do that. I'm going to point this down at the table here and see if I can get a good view of the cards for you guys. I don't know. I'm working on just a laptop camera right now, so I apologize. You able to see that? Okay, good. Let's see. What a great card, my friend. I don't know if you get better than the Lovers when asking a question about love. That kind of, answers that. I mean, I'm going to keep going, but wow. I love it when it's just, what was your question? Here's your answer. Anything coming your way concerning love? And I pull the Lovers. So, The Lovers. Let's talk about that card. There's a couple of things that the Lovers represents. From a very deep esoteric sort of occult level, it represents the alchemical marriage, which is this very... it's actually a very simple, yet very, very deep and complicated idea of the union of things to create something new. And in respect to the human experience and how we experience love, it is the desire of two to become one, and that one actually is a separate being. That's why when you end one relationship and enter another, people can have a complete change in personality. They take on qualities of the other person. Okay, well then, thankfully you can hear the voice though, because that's the important part. Frankly, the video isn't so great anyway in the situation that I'm in with my lighting until I kind of get that sorted out. But this is the Lovers. Now, let's look at sort of who, when, these types of things. Wow, okay. First of all, this is very strange. I almost want to look at the next couple of cards, but I'm not going to. And it's not strange, it's actually really serendipitous and beautiful. I was just talking about the alchemical marriage, right? Because we got the card of the Lovers, and that represents that. Now, one of the manifestations of this in respect to magic and ritual is within witchcraft. One of the most sacred and holy rituals within their system is where the athame, or the dagger, which represents the masculine energy, is dipped into the cup or the chalice, which holds the feminine energy, and it represents basically like the knife being the active force, the white of the yin yang, and then you have the cup, which is the receptive. It's meant to receive. Just like a bowl, it receives. And so that's the feminine energy, the black of the yin yang. And look at the two cards I drew. The Ace of Sword and the Ace of Cup. So it's literally the alchemical marriage in cards. Like, all right, so it's kind of a fun time when that happens. When you're a card reader. Really, really good stuff. And the symbolism, man, I don't even have time to get into all of it. It's just great. I will say this, though. What this does mean, and the important thing that's coming to me that I think is the real takeaway and why this is so powerful, this requires you, yes, absolutely. The alchemical marriage is the act of intercourse. Absolutely. And it represents the idea of male and female combining to create a child. So that said, and that child is very often spiritual in nature and not necessarily a living being, but a spiritual being. So the takeaway here and the important thing is that it requires your participation. Meaning that this is not the type of situation where you're just going to be chilling out, getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks and some, new love is going to walk into your life and like that. This is going to require your participation, meaning that you have to become... Chill Will, good evening, welcome. It's going to require you, yes, there's a couple of people in front of you, but I would say maybe 10 minutes, Chill Will, and I'll be able to answer some questions for you. And how you would participate would be to, for instance, become the sword. Become the energy that is going to attract the cup. Become the active force. And so, that doesn't mean, go out, as Joe Cool and like scope out but rather to become the active energy. If somebody is in a situation where they are feeling weak, be the strength. If somebody is having a moment where they're feeling maybe inadequate, take a step back and be calmly quiet and let them shine. These are very important qualities of the masculine energy, and understand the part of you that reflects that properly is going to attract that situation. And you're also going to wind up, yes, very much court her, 100%. That's a good way to put it. And make sure that she understands that you are willing to participate, that you're not just sort of bored, but you are looking for love, and you understand that that means that you have to do your part, and that you're willing to be that for her. And that will certainly move that along. Finally, just curiously, because I do feel like this energy is here, I'm going to pull a card and I'm going to ask a question. And my question is who is she? I see her as sharp, good at math. Shantae, I believe you're next, or you. Actually, there's one person before you, Shantae. So it's let me scroll. Just give me a moment. I have Selassie is next, then Shantae, then Will. But yes, to finish with Phantom, she is sharp, probably good at math. I would say light eyes, and if they're dark or brown, there's going to be like a light colored hazel in the middle of that brown, or like a light green in the hazel. But I do get a vibe of like light, whether it's pale skin or that type of vibe. I would say that she is active, as opposed to somebody that is maybe more reserved in their activities. She seems to be like a more active person. And I would also say that they seem to be kind of like a competitive and fair, but competitive, which is kind of neat. So you may have a good time with that as well, depending upon your own personality and kind of how you are. So yeah, that answers that. That was great. I had a lot of fun with that, man. I appreciate that, Phantom. Okay, so let's see. Selassie, good evening. How you doing? Good to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping back in. And what can I do for you tonight? What can we find out here? I also want to mention, just while you're typing your question, kind of get my plugs in. This is a new channel, and so I put together a Patreon for $1 a month. Anybody who joins at $1 a month gets a free report. This is a full astrology report with interpretations. It's done personally by me. It's not some kind of like thing on the internet where I plug it in. As well, I have a $5 level where once a month you will get a full reading on what to expect the next month. And so that's something that's always nice to have. Or if you just want to do a strictly one-on-one, and these are pretty in-depth, they usually go a couple hours, and sometimes can even turn into like a second reading to kind of button up a few things, and that is just $35. It's sort of like a standard client fee of $35 for a one-on-one. And so that's up there as well. And that's going to be listed below in the description. But all I would ever ask anybody for, if you like what I'm doing, if you kind of dig the vibe of the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell so when I go live, and you can jump in and have fun in the chat here. I always have a good group of people. At least so far I have. The two that I've done have been great. And tell your friends, please. So I appreciate it. Okay. So Selassie, what's your question? What can I do for you? Okay. I appreciate that, my friend. And I was considering the same thing. And when I jumped on, I wasn't 100% sure which people were good. I think it's very important that you support the people that are doing the right thing. And so I have to kind of get on. And if you have any recommendations, please message me too. I want to build a good community, and that means also maybe getting some things with other people on YouTube and doing some kind of like group thing where we have a discussion about certain topics. There's nothing better than having a bunch of people with good experience having a conversation about aspects of tarot. That alone is worth its weight in gold from a learning perspective. Now, Eleni, is it Eleni or Selassie? Because I know last night there was a Selassie in the room as well, and I don't... Is that like your surname, or is... So are you actually Eleni, and I've just been calling you by your last name? Shirsha, good evening. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate you saying hi to us tonight. Okay, tell you what, Shantae, then, why don't you go ahead with your question, and then Alani, I will get to you as soon as you can put it together, and we'll... Oh, did it really? Wow. Yeah, that can happen. That's a pain in the butt. Cool. Yes, I am doing questions here. That's I had a couple of people in front, maybe 2 people in front of you at this point. 3. There's 3 people in front of you at this point. But I'll be happy to. I'm going to be on for a little bit tonight, so there'll certainly be time for you. Now, let me ask a question to the room. Is there anybody in the room that is going to be hanging out for a little while that maybe wants to take on the role of moderator? No problem. We can do that. We can do that. Go ahead, Alani. I've certainly been there. Yazzie, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's one of these things. I've been reading tarot for a very long time, over 30 years, and I just never, until now, made the decision to go online with it. It's, I've even had friends in the business that have taken that step and done the TV thing and done the phone thing and done the internet. I just never decided to do it. I always just kind of kept my clients personal but so it's I love this though. This is really great. Kind of bringing it to a group and having a group together is really something. Okay, Lenny. Let's see. What actions will he take toward you? No, Phantom I've done. Eleni I'm doing now. Shantae is next after Eleni. And then there was one other person that had asked for a reading there, so let me... where'd you go? Where'd you go? Chill Will. If you're still here, Chill Will, then you're going to be soon. Somebody's serious. Okay. Good to see you serious. Absolutely. I think we'll have time, yeah. Oh, did he? Okay. Could be. Oh, I'm old enough to know what a handle is, Phantom. All right. Okay, so let's see, Lenny, what he's going to do here. I'm going to start with that. Okay, wow. Take the tiger by the tail. That's the first lesson. Interesting. I will say this. Okay. Sometimes this pops up, and so I'm just going to go with what I'm seeing here, and then, you know, you can either let me know, is this relevant in any way to your question, or something that you just need to hear, but this is what I have to say. I see very toxic behavior that is potentially putting somebody in a bad situation, and that may be you. I'm not sure with George, or if it's him, or if it's you, or if there's somebody related to him that is doing something bad, maybe drug related, or having some type of issue with something similar to that, but it's self-destructive behavior. And I don't know, there just seems like potentially a level of violence, but here's the thing that's strange. I see that coming from a female. So does that make, I don't know what that makes sense at all to you, but thank you, Eleni, for doing the list. You're awesome. So, and let me look into that a little further here too, because that's really sort of, okay, yeah. It's the more I see, and I pull cards and I'm looking at what I'm seeing here. There's some type of excessive behavior. Could be gambling, could be drugs or alcohol, could be physical addictions. It could be a lot of things. But yeah, there's something here. I would say indulgence is another word. It dawned on me. And it's actually funny because it sort of changed the energy a little bit once it finally clicked. And sometimes it, you know, when you're getting these types of ideas, they form in blocks that sometimes you have to kind of put together, and then it forms this, and when it does, it's a beautiful picture. But I see him like taking you in fully. Like there's an idea of imagine a really hot day and you're really thirsty and somebody hands you a drink, and that sensation, and you just drink the whole thing, is different than when you're just casually and you take a sip. It's that sort of completely taking you in idea. Like there's there is still this kind of level of like a violent energy, like a not an anger, but a like an uncontrollable animalistic kind of energy about it. Certainly, whatever's going to happen is going to be fast moving. Wow, the room's really filling up. It's kind of great. I will say that I see good things in as far as the outcome. It's desirable. It's pleasurable. It's positive, but intense. You know, there's a lot of intense energy in this situation, and I see that kind of being the case. in this case. And it's like, at first it was it was almost like a violent energy. It was almost like like somebody rushing into a situation with like a fierce energy, which can certainly also be very positive as well when you're dealing with lovers, as an example. That can be very intense in their experience. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling there. Okay, we have, let's see, where are we at? Shantae. Shantae is next. Yes, Shantae is next. Shantae, if you're still here, and I hope you are, you're next up. Big hug from Chile. Big hug right back to you. That's awesome. Well, first of all, Shantae, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm happy to hear that. So, that actually happened to me recently as well. I had a pretty painful breakup, and now I'm with somebody, and I have to say it's been great. We're together now for several years, and in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But that said, let's see. Okay, so somebody knew what's in store. Good stuff. Keep in mind as well, guys, which I'm sure you know if you've been on YouTube and into live streams, the chat and the video it's a relatively decent delay, and so it's not always going to be, you know. Well, it's funny you say that, Phantom. You know, it's sometimes you have to kind of be aware of the audience. Like, for instance, I'm going to be doing on this channel some tarot. Well, actually, a pretty comprehensive tarot course, and in that course, it's going to be no holds barred, very technical and intense. And you know, when doing readings online, you want to kind of keep it accessible, keep it, you know, approachable. Okay, Eleni, if you're going to be here in a while, just for sake of sanity and otherwise, I'm going to elevate you to moderator. That way, if you need to, you can do stuff. And thank you for your help tonight. And so you have to, just back to Phantom, what I was saying, you have to really kind of be cognizant of the audience and make sure that you're not really kind of going above some people's understandings into too complex stuff. I mean, you don't want to spoon feed, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're keeping it accessible. Hello, Gadgets, welcome. Okay, so Shantae, what's in store? I'm feeling like we're done here, so let's go ahead and flip the cards. Okay, new guy. The card that I got is the Disc, the Knight of Disc. Started with the Ace of Wands, Ten of Wands, Knight of Disc. So let's look at this. First of all, this individual is stern, solid, and emotionally would have a stable emotional state. When it comes to are they active or passive, this is not 100%, and not that he's not a get things done kind of person, but this is more the person that is kind of on the slower end of the activity level, but able to accomplish very much. Potentially older than you, Is he older than you, or I get a vibe that there's a level of authority there, and so oftentimes I tend to interpret that maybe as like older in age, but not always age. It can sometimes be just a respect and authority about them. I do see an active kind of passion. There is a lot of sexual energy coming from this individual toward you, and that's a good thing when you're starting a relationship, because that can be the fuel to kind of allow for other things to happen, and you get deeper into each other's personalities, and to really get to know somebody by having that comfort level. Okay, so he is older. Now, I also see here there's a lot of baggage, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a lot of prior, this can either mean partners or prior experiences in life that have kind of like left their mark, whether that's on his personality or on his business life or his career or these types of things. But there is, I see a lot of sort of oppressive baggage. I've seen sometimes this type of feeling come up with people who've experienced trauma, or people who've experienced war, or like a soldier, or this type of thing. So I'm going to expand on a couple of these real quick. Let me just look at. Okay, emotionally too, it's interesting. I see that there's a sort of like bursts of energy, like of charisma is the perfect word I'm looking for. Somebody who has like these bursts of personality where they're likable, but at the same time there's sort of like a most of the time a reserved kind of coolness to it. So that's not a bad. That's a cool kind of person. Emotionally, though, I do see that there's some. This person has been affected by trauma in some fashion, emotionally, and that may lend to there being a little bit of an inconsistency in personality or mood. And so, just be aware of that. Understand that may have a source that he did not have control of, and you two can maybe. As you see something like that evolve, you're going to be aware of it so that you can address it with him quickly and kind of go from there. Oh, good night, Phantom. Thank you again for stopping in. I appreciate it so much. No problem. So, and finally, I will say as well that there's this idea that he really is, he's going to want to, there's going to be a lot of emotional outpouring with this individual, whether that's well, everyone kind of manifests that differently in their lives. Some people will manifest that in gift giving, or being like a lot of showering somebody with adornment, or in some cases it can be just a lot of generosity. And so I kind of see that vibe of him wanting to kind of make you happy, and working toward that, and so that's not a bad thing either. That's certainly something to look forward to. Oh, Eyes Like Stars, hello. Did you leave and pop back in, or are you just kind of hanging out in the chat? Because I would love to. That was, I think you were the first person in the room actually tonight. But I hope that helped you out, Shantae, and that gave you some guidance on sort of what to expect with this individual. And good luck. I tell you what, sometimes you need to be filled up. When you leave a situation like that, you know, it's sometimes this is the kind of thing that can really help you heal and move on, especially if it was a horrible breakup, which again, I'm sorry that you had to go through. You know, we've all kind of been there, but some can be worse than others. But yeah, absolutely. Eyes Like Stars. I would of course answer a question for you. Okay, where do we have? Where's the list now? We have Chill Will is next. No problem, Shantae, and thank you for stopping in. So, Chill Will, if you're still hanging out with us, just let me know what I can answer for you. Well, a lot of people have jumped in the room too, so why doesn't everybody just really quickly, if you want to participate in that, just throw up what your sun sign is real quick, so that we can all get a sense of who's who in here and how many really cool Sagittariuses there are in the house, because there's at least one right here. I know we have a Gemini in the room. Champagne, of course, you could be on the list, and thank you for stopping in tonight. Leo. Taurus. Okay, cool. Okay, here, what do we got? Pisces. My sister's a Pisces. Scorpio. Very close to Sagittarius. That's cool. Now the retracted messages, is that what's causing that? Is that personally, like you chose to remove it, or is it being like tagged by Google for something? If you pardon me, guys, I just have to let the puppy out real quick. Pardon? I have a puppy in the room with me here, and I think he wants to go outside. Let me see. Do you guys want to see next level cute? I'm babysitting a couple of dogs for somebody. This is Bailey. Bailey is a Dachshund and Chihuahua. Is this is this next level superpower cute? Look at that cute. Are you kidding? Look at the camera, buddy. Look how, oh my God. It's so adorable. You are adorable. You're amazing. Mwah. Okay, so let me let him out of the room, and I'll be right back. There you go. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I see that dog. The first time I met him, I thought that's unfair to be that cute. I immediately melted. And we got to give him back. He's just here, you know. We're just babysitting for an indefinite amount of time, but I mean, it could be any day that he's going to be gone, and I'm going to miss that little guy. I tell you what, he's really something. Okay, so let's see here. Chill Will in the house. Let's give him another minute. If not, then we'll let's see. We'll move on to Shirsha, if Chill Will doesn't make it in the room. Or he changed his name. Did you change your name to? Let's see. Yeah, if you change your name, Chill Will, let me know. Otherwise, okay, let's do this. Shirsha, you can go next. Okay, good. So then I'm glad I made you moderator. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so it's going to be Shirsha and then Sirius. Or is it just Siri? Hello, Sarah. Absolutely is. Let's see, we have a couple of people here. We have, well, Chill Will, I'm not sure if it's still in the room, and Shirsha, if you are here as well, please chime in. Siri, if you're here. Hello, Debbie. Good to see you. Debbie, by the way, is my love, and she joined me in the chat tonight, so that's kind of neat. Good to see you, babe. Oh, why did you redact your Virgo? Could have fallen asleep. That is, yeah. It's 1:45 here too. I'm in the upstate New York, in the mountains, so Eastern. Yazzie, you may be next. Let's, if we're not able to pin some people down here. Sirius, if you're in the room, go ahead and ask your question, and if not, then Yazzie, you're up. Oh, and by the way, Yazzie, is that number Fibonacci by accident? Next step on my spiritual path. I don't know if there's a better question, to be honest. I would be happy to answer that question. Okay, let's make sure everything's set here. Okay, so... Okay, you haven't missed your turn, but I guess it kind of got a little weird with the delay, so you can be next at this point. No problem. We'll just kind of shift you on the list and you'll be next. Shirsha, you're next. Oh, neat. Okay. So just coincidence. Let's see here. That is really a good question. The reason I say that is that, ultimately when it comes down to what it actually is to be what we are, a human being, there's no greater path to walk, because regardless of where you are in this mundane world, if you're in the right direction and you're moving toward your goal, none of that matters. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter where you live. What matters is that you understand who you actually are. Kind of meet yourself for the first time. And you begin to recognize what actually matters in life. Well, basically, no, just the numbers that you put in your name there, the 3, 5, 8 are the Fibonacci sequence. 3 plus 5 equals 8. 5 plus 8 would be 13, and so on. And so it's just it's a numerological device. That was it's also a mathematical thing. And so basically 3, 5, 8 is those are 3 numbers in sequence of the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so to begin then, Yazzie, on the answer to your question. Firstly, I would say that there is a togetherness is part of your next step of your spiritual path. What I see is whether you join a group or a couple of individuals, I kind of see this as being a little more intimate than a group like a church or like that type of thing, but more like maybe a 2 or 3 individuals that are involved in the subject or involved in a certain way of thinking that forwards that path, that keeps you on that path. Let me just continue with that as well. What I see here is also there's a level of the old way of thinking is going to become, and this is a side effect of being on the spiritual path, by the way, is going to become more and more frustrating. The old way of thinking will become frustrating to you. The old way of thinking will become more and more useless. There's a point where you realize that you waste a lot of emotional time and energy on not necessarily the right things, and that the things that actually do matter are the opposite. Oh, Bailey's back. Hello, Bailey. Oh, thank you. And so one of the things that you'll notice happening when you begin your walk on the spiritual path is that things that in your life that were so important to you, that you put so much energy toward, that mattered so much to you, no longer even, they're almost like a frustration or a waste of time. Things that never mattered to you before suddenly do. Things that used to not bother you at all bother you. It's a shift, and so you have to kind of really be prepared for that. And that came up here as well, that what I would say as part of this is to be prepared for maybe some frustration and kind of a change in your life, a change potentially into the types of people that you surround yourself with, which, yes, it can be very hard to get rid of old beliefs. That's very true. But some new people in your life may actually be relevant or relative to a new path. What I'll also say is that there is a solid fulfillment in your very near future in respect to this. You're going to learn or achieve or understand, kind of like where you put the piece in the puzzle and the picture becomes clear to you finally. And there's a few things that can happen in your life when you're on the spiritual path that there's no going back. Once you know certain things, you can't unknow them, and they can alter the way that you think and see the world, the way you interact with the environment, the way you experience your reality is completely altered forever. And that's a great thing, to be honest. That is the best. That's the goal, is to, because, one of my goals, and it sounds so silly and cliche and lofty, but I'll just be honest because it's true in my heart. My goal is to evolve. And that may sound strange at first, but no, you don't evolve. Evolution occurs as a process outside of you. So my children will then have children, and they'll have children. The evolution takes place after. You don't actually evolve. You participate in it through the act of reproduction, but we don't actually evolve. However, I was not satisfied with that, and I believe we can evolve. And the way that we do is we evolve mentally. We evolve spiritually and emotionally to where we are literally a different person than we used to be. We're actually an evolved being, greater than when we began the process. And I see that coming in your life. This knowledge, this experience, this understanding that will occur, that will change you forever. And it's not going to happen alone. There are people involved. Whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people, you're not going through this alone. This is not a solitary process for you. I'm just going to throw one more card here to take a look at. I do see there being a psychic opening. And this is interesting too, because this idea of the spiritual path, the goal of the spiritual path should be, otherwise you're sort of spinning wheels toward the wrong end, to go in, because in is out. And what I mean by that is that you cannot experience objective reality using the 5 senses. You cannot see gods. You cannot hear gods. You cannot smell, taste, and touch. You can only know it. It has to occur within. And to try to find truth in the world is a fool's errand. The only truth lies within. And the interesting point is once you do find that within, you find you have access to everything. You are opened up to everything. So that said, one of the things I see happening in this path is that there's an openness is going to begin to happen. The next step in your spiritual path is that you're going to begin to become frustrated with old ways. You're going to begin to be open to new ways of thinking, and more specifically, the pure ways of thinking that allow you access to truth. And so what I would say is that from a practical answer to your question, what should I do next? Seek others in your local area. Seek others that you can sit down and converse with, and that you can have these experiences with, and bounce information and knowledge and conversation with. That I think that's going to be very important to the next practical level of your experience. But I will say that there is a sense of an opening connecting you to your true self. Not in some immediate opening where you've achieved godhood, but what I see is that you are on a path where you're going to begin to communicate, and it's going to begin to come to you in flashes that's going to develop this for you. Another way to put that is that if you imagine when you're tuning a radio, you get kind of close to the station, there's static, but then you hear, and then there's some static, and then you can hear it, and then there's some static. And as you get closer, it gets sharper. Until finally, when you're totally tuned into the right frequency on the radio, there's no more static. It's 100% clear. It's full HD sound. It's same idea. And the static is reality. The static is sound, sight, hearing, taste, and touch. The things that we identify with that have nothing to do with who we really are. And so I hope that helps you. I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much. I would say, let's see, who is next? Is it Shirsha? Or wait, because somebody got accidentally skipped. Or was it Eyes Like Stars next? Right, because you had gotten skipped. I believe. Oh, that's right, Shirsha. Yeah, you missed your turn. And then what I'm going to do is, let's see, let me look at that list here. Okay, there we go. Oh, I see. All right, the new list is up by Eleni, so I'm just going to honor that then. I appreciate that. Okay. So that was Yazzie, so we have Shirsha. Okay, great. Please let me know. Ask Ali's current feelings towards you. You're separated. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Okay, great champagne. Sue, you're on there as well, right? Yes, you are. You're coming up in just a couple. Awesome. First, let me say I'm sorry that you're separated. If it's something that you did not want to end, that could be difficult, and I'm sorry that you have to feel that. I mean, it's one of those unfortunate things. And I have to assume, based on the fact that you're asking the question, that you know that it matters to you. You know. Okay, so. I would say then, stop here. Okay, so here's the stuff I am initially seeing. We have the Eight of Wands, we have the Four of Swords, and we have the Nine of Cups. And so I'm going to start with the Eight of Wands. This card is electric. It is the power of the elements. So in this case, this is the element of fire in the wand. And it represents a lot of energy, but not just energy as a general term, more energy like that is directed toward a specific goal. I see a lot of joy, actually. Whether that's going back to how he felt when you were together or in his mind. But I see joy in that situation, and I do see some type of forgiveness occurring, whether that's you having to forgive or he having to forgive. Communication, communication is a difficult thing. Let me explain why. I feel like communication can't always occur and is something that kind of like requires timing. For instance, if there's something that you want to say and you want to be heard, but that other person, for whatever reason, is not in a receptive place, communication will not occur. Even if you put the words out and they take the words in, nothing actually happened. But when you're in a position of wanting to be heard and they're receptive to that, then you can have this connection happen and you can actually communicate. I would say that, okay, so that makes sense. If you're angry, then it seems like there needs to be some level of forgiveness. He feels joy when looking back, maybe, or is craving that, wants that. He's very attracted to you, and that kind of motivates some of that feeling as well. I would say I also say this, that there may be a sense of bribery in a way. Like there's this idea of like I can give you this, or look what I can do for you, or as well. But in respect to communication, I see that being more of for a selfish kind of reason. And so, you have to kind of ask yourself what it is you want. Very often it's important to realize whatever occurred to end the situation that you're in probably isn't going to change if it's a person's character, or if it's their personality, or if it's these types of things. If it's an outside influence and that influence is no longer present, then maybe there can be change. But if you're with somebody and something occurs, or there's something about them that causes that relationship to end, it's more than just 30 years of doing tarot readings for people that taught me this. It's not going to change the second time around unless something actually dramatic happens. So you kind of have to make that decision on if it's what you even kind of want to begin with. But does that make sense? So you need just to wrap it up. He looks at you with joy. He is attracted to you. That there does need to be some level of forgiveness about the situation, and there is a lot of energy there. Absolutely, he wants you, whether or not that is for selfish reasons or otherwise, which I can even take a look at really quickly. That's what I'm seeing. There's a lot of physicality about it. Yeah, there's a lot of physicality about it. There's a lot of sexual energy. There's a lot of energy directed toward that part of the relationship that he's feeling, and so just keep that in mind as well. Okay, let's see who's next on the list here. And keep in mind, everybody, if anybody else, if you're interested in private readings or otherwise, there's links below in the description on how to go about doing that. And we can book that for whenever is appropriate for you to kind of work around your schedule. And we can either do that by phone or video chat. And we can work that out, obviously, offline separately, but the link's in the bottom there if you wanted to do like a private one-on-one for anything else. Yes, sure. I would say calm, not a bad idea if you're trying to communicate. Certainly, it's never good to try to communicate angry. That's like shopping hungry. You come home with a bunch of junk. You've bought nothing, and really you didn't accomplish too much. So consider that. And no problem. I hope I was able to provide a little bit of a different angle or a perspective to help you see the situation a little better. Now on that, let's see here, list. Sirius? Yeah, is Sirius still in the room? Yes, you are. Okay. There you go. I'm dealing with... Is there no communication? Okay. I'm dealing with... I'm a little unclear on your question there, Sirius. Yes, you're next. I'm going to read you right now. But I'm dealing with hold something in future. I'm not sure what you meant there. Was that an autocorrect or like a translation that's not translating well, or? There you go. Okay. Pisces. Okay, when you say no communication, meaning you're not talking right now out of anger, or that's like what's stopping you from communicating? You did. Yes, thank you. Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to look at here is your question of, do you hold any future? Because that's just simply like a yes or no kind of question, and then we can elaborate kind of from there. So let's look at that. Do you hold any future? Okay, interesting. I see you kind of fighting it, if that sounds, or there's something that you are participating in, an action that you're taking or not taking, or something that you're doing that's kind of slowing that down or preventing that from happening. So what I would say is this: if nothing changes, and we can look at quickly what it is that needs to change. If nothing changes, then no, there's no future. There needs to be some change, and it looks like it may be something potentially that you're participating in some way, something that you're doing, and so let's take a look at that. Right, okay. let's say, let's take a look here. Right. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely, I do see anger, and sort of it seems like it got pretty heated. Interesting. He does miss you. He does want to be with you or want you. There is a want for you. Um, I will say this. I will say that communication can take place. It's going to require you to be a bit patient, and try not to be so angry. I see a lot of sort of a lot of like anger, and looks like your actions have reflected that, and that will certainly hinder that situation. It looks like some time needs to pass. Once a little bit of time passes, I do see some type of scenario where you guys kind of do have an interaction. So I would say yes, but probably not as quickly as you'd like. I don't see him as angry. No, I don't. But I don't see him as. I don't see the two of you getting to a level that you're happy with anytime in the very near future. It may take a little bit longer than you're hoping for. That may be difficult, actually. Sometimes when people do wrong, it's hard for them to apologize because that requires them to admit wrong. And that's hard sometimes for people to do. I think we would all get along better if we were able to kind of just get past our ego and to allow ourselves to be more honest with the world and ourselves. And that means that sometimes we're a little weak, and it's okay to admit when you're wrong. We really should do that more often. Well, I do see a lot of physical attraction in the relationship here, in respect to you. I think like there seems to be like you have a want for this to come back, and I think that he is. Yeah, I think he's afraid that you're going to be angry or that you're going to be. I don't. Let me see here. Wow. Yeah. Now's not the time. I would let it. I would let it take some time. I would say that it may be bad for you to try to rush it right now and kind of so just be a little bit patient with him, and but I do see you getting together again, just not immediately, not as long or as quickly as you'd like. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know. Always feel free to come back in and let me know how it worked out, and if you wanted to expand on that in the future, you can feel free to pop in to the chat again, and let me know how it went with him. But I would say that you should maybe wait a little bit. Okay, what do we have here? Let's see. Joao, and then Champagne, and then Sarah. Okay, let's see here. So we have Joao is next. If you're still with us, then go ahead. Wow, that list changed a lot. It's been evolving. Okay, no problem. Will I get a job at Salesforce in Ireland? What do you see in terms of my financial life? Okay. Absolutely, Rose. You can be added to the list. No problem. I think I'm going to probably end up doing another about 20 or so minutes. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it may run a little bit longer, but just to give everybody in the room an idea, I'm probably going to run this for maybe another about 20 minutes. Okay. Let me just give these one more quick shuffle. And then we'll look at Salesforce in Ireland. Okay. Okay, so the first, and this is for Joao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, pardon. Champagne, I think, is going after Joao. That's where I'm at right now. Yes, you'd be next, Champagne, yes. The first card that came up was unfortunately not necessarily a positive card. This is the Eight of Cups, and I would say that it doesn't really look good. That's not a positive answer. If the question is a yes or no, that would kind of count as a no. I laid a couple of cards around the situation to get a vibe of the surrounding part of the situation here, like the interview process and these types of things. I will say that it looks like that there is a lot of motion and a lot of emotion. I would say that don't come off too eager and too strong in this circumstance. It seems like that there's going to be like an over eagerness that maybe won't serve you. But as far as Salesforce in Ireland, I don't necessarily, again, if I had to just answer yes or no, I would say it's a no. But your next question, which was your financial future, is very positive. So I don't see the Salesforce situation not happening as being a negative. I actually see that differently. What I wind up seeing here is a positive financial future. In fact, filled cups, like a very, very positive, good thing. And it's going to give you a lot of happiness. And so I would say to be, it's okay if it doesn't work out because it's for the best. That's very, very strong. I get that feeling very strong. Okay, who do we have here? David, good to see you. I'm not sure if anybody in the room is aware. David is the best Aries. Self-proclaimed. Okay. So, let's see, the chat's filling up. Hello, Kemi. Thank you for joining us. So, Gadgets USA, yeah, did you, like, jump on and off? I'm not sure. It seems like it's been, Okay, so, let's see, it is Champagne next, then, I believe. Okay, I want to know why did this Scorpio block me again? He's playing games. LOL, that's funny. My ex-wife's a Scorpio. In 5 planets. That's not a joke. Okay. Alright, cool. No problem. You're back on the list, Gadgets. No worries. Okay, so... Scorpio, why did he block you again? How many times has he blocked you? Yes, Kemi, I'm new on YouTube. I've been reading cards for quite some time, a little over 30 years, but I'm new to streaming on YouTube, yes. In fact, this is my second stream. Last night was my test run, and tonight's my first, like, real full stream. Twice, okay. All right. Okay. Here's what I'm seeing. This is a nice, good, clear answer too, which is nice. He's playing games. I mean, it's almost really that simple. No. Well, it looks like depending. Okay, real quickly, Eleni. It depends upon how many people are left. I would say I probably have room for maybe 4 or 5 more after Champagne. Okay, so at that point, because I am going to be getting off of here in just a little bit, and so I probably have room for maybe 4 or 5 more. And again, anybody at any time, if you'd like to, can book a private reading. There's information below in the description on how to do that. And otherwise, back to your question, Champagne. There is a level of a selfishness toward the situation, meaning that he is not as into it as you think. He's kind of playing games. He's kind of dancing the dance, walking the walk, and you're kind of caught up in that. It's a power trip for him. It makes him feel powerful to take that away from you. It's kind of his way to kind of maintain that power in playing the game. What I do see is that with your interaction with this person, it's going to be fake happy. That's really what I'm feeling. Right. Well, that's just it. Like, there was no actual love there. Like, it was a physical thing, and but at the same time, I don't see him respecting that either. He's going to continue to block you and take you off, and it's a game. It's a power trip. He wants to make sure that he feels like he won. And there's a lot of situations in a circumstance like that where people break up or whatever the case may be, where you have to justify it to yourself why it happened. Or that, like, oh, whatever, I didn't even like her anyway, or, whatever the case may be. And so by blocking you, it makes him feel like he won. It's also, just incidentally, it's a way to protect yourself, because if he's feeling inadequate, blocking you allows him to not have to face you. And so it could also mean a little bit that he's feeling like he doesn't want to have to face it. Okay, next, let's see, we have gadgets, I think, is next. You're welcome, Champagne, no problem. Yeah, you got to be careful here. You get if people are immature and they're not really kind of approaching the situation properly, you have to kind of think maybe he's not ready to take it seriously, or he's never going to. Some people, it's just their personality, and some people are just immature and they're going to grow out of it, and they're going to begin to give what you deserve, as opposed to just sort of a selfish situation. But, and I've said this before, if you're both adults and you both are into each other and you're both having a good time, you can just keep it there. It doesn't have to go any further if you're both not willing to commit to that, because then it's not going to work anyway. So just let it be what it is, but don't try to make it any more than that. And so at that point, what I would say is that it doesn't matter if he blocks you. Who cares? And you know what? The less you care about him blocking you, the quicker it'll bring him back to you. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in the room that will agree with that. Well, that's just it, David. Don't take that guy too seriously. If you want to have fun, fine, but don't expect any more from him, because it's like it's just an exercise in futility, and it's silly and pointless. Okay, so gadgets. What's coming up for me in August? If you can't answer that, can you tell me what's coming up for my finances? Sure. Well, to do like a full month kind of thing would take a little bit of time. And generally, I could. Let's look at as far as finances for August. We can certainly take a look at. If you did want to get more in depth, I can do a pretty good reading that will get very, very specific into not just the month of August, but the year, month by month. It's a 12-month complete reading. Takes about 2 or so hours. Below, if you'd like, you can book a one-on-one, and we'll take as long as it takes to get through the full 12 months. Now, those as well, the one-on-one readings are recorded, so you'll have the recording of that after the fact to keep, along with the astrology report during the reading. But let's take a look at finances for the month of August. Okay. Okay, so as far as finances are concerned, well, a one-on-one reading is $35. But I do a thing for my patrons where we do some stuff as well. I could do, or actually, let me get through the reading here and get through the chat. But the information below in the description is actually the best way to answer that, as far as the different tiers and kind of what's offered for that. But essentially, a one-on-one telephone reading would be $35. As far as finances are concerned, I do see positives. I see a lot of specifically new money. So, for instance, if you're in a certain situation, like a sales situation, or you're in a commissioned position, or this type of thing, this is going to be new clients, or a new product, or that type of thing. But the money will be plentiful. However, it is going to require some level of sacrifice. I would say that for you to, could be time, could be circumstances like money, could be where you have to spend a little to make a little, but there is going to be a level of sacrifice that is necessary in order to fulfill that. But it is there, and it's going to require your action. It's not something that's going to come to you. It's something that you're going to have to perform an action to obtain. But it is going to be new money, or money from a source that is not currently occurring. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But we could, let me expand on that a little bit, actually. I'll just throw another card out for you. You know what I'm feeling like? I'm feeling like, too, whether this is a new client, a new employee, a new... there's a younger woman involved in this scenario that's related to the sacrifice. Wow, that's interesting that you just... I look up and I hear you. Here you are saying... about a relationship, and that does it need to be ended. I will say that there's some type of thing that needs to be sacrificed that's related to a younger woman that will result in a financial windfall, whether small or large, a financial windfall. Online business, okay, cool, okay. That's funny. I'm just reading some of David's comments here and there. That's funny. Yeah, and I would say, as far as the price is concerned, David, I would simply say this. And this is important when you're talking about dealing with somebody like a spiritual advisor, or somebody like even a psychiatrist or a therapist. I've been to a therapist after some unfortunate things in my life, and I was not very impressed necessarily with how that went. Nothing against the person individually, but I would say that it was not really a positive experience. And that person went to school, had all kinds of degrees, had training, made a six-figure income, build my insurance company 6 figures, and it was pointless, right? And I will say, just personally and individually, the change that I've seen in people that I have had the pleasure of being able to touch in my life, and the ways that I have been touched by people. you can't put a value on that. I mean, completely changed people's lives to where they will never see the world the same again. And you consider kind of what you spend on microtransactions on video games, to completely alter the way that you think and see the world in a positive way. For a couple of bucks, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't know. But that said, okay, who's next here? Oh, well, actually, let's continue with Gadget really quickly, though. I just wanted to. Do I know her yet or not? Maybe not. You may not know her yet. Yeah, and please, David, it's the conversation here is keep it light. But anyway, that said, oh no, yeah, therapy can go for a lot more than that. Trust me. Depending, because you're not just going in one time. It could be very, very expensive. And plus, then of course, don't forget that they want to put people on medications, which cost more. The medications can lead to complications, which lead to other things. It's silly. David is not a troll. Okay, so to answer your question, Gadgets, not new. This person, this person, and there is a stationary quality about it. No, I'm still on you, Gadget. There's a stationary quality about it. And again, I see that sacrifice leading toward some type of financial windfall or an increase in your finances. Actually, to kind of a higher degree, like a whole nother echelon, going from like a 4-figure a month income to a 5-figure a week income type of jump. Okay. So let's see, where are we here? Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of like an energy going on right now that I want to just let's just put a pause on things for a sec. David is obviously a very gregarious personality that visited the room last night and tonight and is kind of having fun with the chat room. There's no harm in that. I have no problem with it. If I did, I'd kick him out of the room, but I'm not going to do that. What I would say to the people that if you're here in a different vibe and you're not feeling too in that vibe, then just kind of ignore his chats, and people who want to engage, then read them and have fun talking. But I do want to say the room's energy is getting weird, and so let's just kind of keep it nice and light. But I do, because I don't want it to go to a point where I've got to kick someone out of the room. I want to keep the room light and playful, but if it gets out of control, then I will have to act and kind of do that, and I don't want to do that. But certainly, I'm not above it if I have to. I try to give people the benefit, and if it does get to a point where it's out of control, then so be it. I mean, I think that Spock said it right. The many outweigh the few in respect to something like that. Oh, not at all, Kemi. Celeste, hello again. Good to see you back. Okay, now I have to scroll to the list again here. Gadgets. Sarah, it looks like next. Sarah, Rosa, and then Kemi. Am I correct? Yes. Yes, gadgets. I see. In fact, again, I see like a whole, like a whole nother level of growth financially, like a very big growth. Okay, I would like to know. Let's see, Sarah. Okay, no problem. Let's take a look at that. Now, I want to. While I'm shuffling for Sarah, I want to say this to you, gadgets. That there is a lot of work involved. You're going to have to do some work, and that may also tie into the sacrifice that I talked about. Okay, so but it is not for naught. It is you will benefit from that. Okay, so keep it up. Okay, so Sarah, let's take a look at this hot and cold. It looks like I went a little bit longer than I expected to tonight. So I would say at this point then the list is closed. Celeste Lotus, you will be the last person on the list for this evening. Okay, and Sarah, I'm going to begin to draw your cards now. Okay. Yes. Yes, it's something to pursue. I see exactly what you just said is interesting. We have the Prince of Disc, which is the masculine figure of the circumstance here, and then the Princess of Sword. So what we have here is the active female energy and the sort of non-moving solid male. And so there's this idea of there being kind of like not an imbalance, but a difference there. I do see there being kind of almost like a one-sidedness to the relationship in respect to the dominance. There is certainly a dominant person in the relationship, and if the other person is internally not okay with that, but does not communicate that, and just sort of holds that in, that can really lend to some unfortunate things in a relationship, and it can really hinder the movement. It can kind of stop the love from flowing, and it just sort of stagnates in a certain place, and then can just turn sour. I would say you don't have to just move on with this person, but there does need to be a balance, and that balance does not exist. So what I would say is the person that's being passive, that's not actually passive, but feels like they need to act that way, whether that's you or him, needs to stop doing that. And the person that's being the dominant, that's being a little too dominant, needs to kind of lend some leeway to the other person. One example of the sensation that I'm getting is like, for instance, in a couple where you've got the one person that's the talker that does all the talking. Every once in a while, you need to listen. Or the person that does too much listening. There's such a thing where you don't ever give anything back and there's no conversation. Like, find a balance there. It's that kind of feeling. There needs to be a change in that balance to where there is a little bit more give than take, and a little bit more take than give. And you can find that flow. But I would say, as far as a direct yes or no, yes, you should pursue it. Continue to pursue that, but understand that there does need to be this kind of shift in the balance. And if one of you is not willing to take that step, then certainly it's going to hinder that forward motion. If that needs to be you, then go ahead. But I do see that it looks like in this particular case, I kind of internally asked the question, is he going to be willing to make that change? And I see that is the case. That he may be willing to lend toward that balance. Let's just put it that way. Lend toward that balance. He'll do that. I hope that was helpful for you, Sarah. And I always encourage anybody who I do a reading for, please come on back at some point in the near future and let me know how it went. Who's next here? Rosa? Okay. While Rosa is preparing her question, Sarah, do I think he will take a while? No, I think that I don't get that sensation. No, I think that if you need to communicate, communication has to start somewhere. And so if you communicate with him, kind of what I've been saying here, that, there seems to be an imbalance. I like being with you. I want to be with you. But it seems like that the reason that, things are kind of up and down is that there seems to be this, like, you talk too much, or you don't give anything back, or whatever that balance is. Have that conversation and have that up front. Be honest with him about the fact that it's important to you, and that you can work it out. And I see him being open to that. I see him being open to making that change, and that's a good thing. Okay, and I hope that helps out, Sarah. Okay, so Rosa, will I end up in a relationship with or are you asking, will I end up in a relationship with A? No problem, Sarah. You're welcome. And so, Rosa, the question, will I end up in a relationship with A? Is that more just a general question of will you end up in a relationship, or is it a specific person? I just need a little clarification on the question there. Okay, no problem. You've been on a few dates. Okay. There you go. That's a little better, so let me take a look at that now. Perfect, great, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Good evening, Bridget, hello. Thanks for popping in. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do here, Rosa, as I'm getting the cards together, is I'm going to say something to you that I say to and have said to thousands of people in the past several decades that I've been reading tarot for, actually over 30 years. By changing the form of the question can really make a difference. So, for instance, instead of will I be in a relationship, you can ask, how will I be in a relationship? So, but that said, let's see here. Will you be in a relationship with him? We'll look at first. Yeah, I believe Kemi is next, and then Selassie. So first, this is we're on Rosa's question here. He likes you, and there's an emotional connection already happening. And so, yes, you can end up in a relationship with him. That is possible because there is an emotional connection. He likes spending time. He wants you to like him, and so that's a good thing. There's sort of like a good vibe going on that can be built upon. There's a foundation that can be built upon. I see it being very intense at times, emotionally. Maybe even, like, for instance, sometimes where you can meet somebody and you have a connection with them and there's a physical connection, and then you go to the next step and you get to know each other better, and then suddenly, and sometimes even in a short period of time, there can be this emotional connection where you'll cry with them, or something will happen in your life and you'll realize that, wow, this person will be here for me. There's like an upwelling that they're open to, and if and when that happens, that's always a good thing. And so I see there being a lot of emotional intensity with this person, and there is a level of, I see you being very kind of more active than him in the relationship. And so be aware that doesn't necessarily mean he likes you any less than you like him. It's just the nature of each individual's separate character. There's separate sort of qualities on how they communicate to the world, how they put themselves out. Some people are so quiet you don't even realize that they like you, or that they have a deep love in their heart, but they don't really aren't the best at showing it. But I do see a lot of very positive qualities emotionally. This person, however, he may also at times be a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Easy to turn emotionally, like somebody who get very easily sad, very easily happy, very easily, and I feel like he may wind up kind of taking advantage of that by using his emotional state in the relationship. And I see you becoming a more of the active person and him sort of taking on that role sort of like along with you. Oh, hello, sweet raspberry. Thank you for popping in. Okay, let's see, where are we now? And my chat here has been going for, it's going to be going on 2.5 hours soon, so I'm going to have to really wrap it up soon. A few people just jumped in, though, so right now I am at Kemi, and then Selassie, and we have a couple of people who just jumped in and asked. So, I was going to give it a break, but let me see. Let me do this here. So we have, let's see, Bridget, or Brigitte, I'm not sure, but Bridget, Shanali, and Sweet Raspberry. Will you be around in, say, 15 or 20 minutes? Because I would like to kind of take a quick break and then sort of get back to it. So what I'd like to do is finish up with Kemi and Selassie, take a quick 15-minute or 20-minute break, and then come back. Okay? And then if you guys are still around or available for that, then I'll be happy to answer a couple of quick questions before we end for the evening completely. So next is Kemi. No problem, Rose. I appreciate it. Thank you for popping in tonight. And okay, Kimmy, great. No problem. Okay, how does feel about me? This is like friendship turning into a long-term relationship. Okay. No problem. Let's take a look. Alrighty. Let me just give this a quick cut and then we'll start. Okie dokie. Alrighty, here's what I'm seeing here now. One of you is looking at the other as a source of like emotional strength. That's probably what fueled the friendship, at least subconsciously, if not outwardly. Was this level of like, oh wow, this person kind of gets me, and there's going to be a, that's maybe something that has been lacking. I see two things that are kind of interesting here. And pardon the question, but are you or is she? Is this a same-sex relationship, or is it? There seems to be like a lot of feminine energy that is like. But if not, it seems like there's kind of like a similarity in respect to that from a polarity. It's kind of a sensation I got right away when I put this down. But I will say that there is, okay, it's a guy. But there is like a familiarity maybe. I don't know, does he have sort of feminine tendencies. I don't know. There's people like that I've been friends with in my life that were girls that I was just friends with, but that thought that I was kind of like their buddy. I tend to be sort of like emotionally connected and kind of okay with expressing that, and that can come off as a feminine quality. But there is definitely a connection where there's like a vibe of you get me going on, and I do see there being speed in that, like a like there could be, but there is one thing. One of the cards that came up in sort of the near future of this situation is the moon. The moon. This is the Thoth version of the moon card, but the moon is very often symbolizes like a hiddenness, like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not like there's a deception, because that's not what I'm getting at, but more of like a hidden quality, like a part of his life that he doesn't want to talk about, or maybe he wants more and isn't telling you. Is interested in getting involved but doesn't want to tell you. But there's a quality or something related to that he doesn't want to necessarily communicate. And so I would say be aware of that, but that there is it looks like there is a possibility. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything outwardly that would hinder it that I can see here. I almost want to say, like, I almost feel like if you were to communicate that you want more, he would be very eager to agree with that and to meet with that. So I want to look at one last thing here in respect to the moon. Okay, I would certainly say there's not anything being directly hidden from you, like he's not telling you something, but there is something that something that you're not aware of yet. But that, I don't see that as a negative. I see it maybe as like potentially I don't know, that's difficult. I would say that I would want to look into that a little further. The moon card, and how it relates to this particular circumstance. Let me look up here. He's been telling me how he's not looking, but I've been telling him the same. Okay, well, see, that's an important point, Kemi. I feel like that what you need to do here is to recognize it's okay to communicate that. Like, recognize that it's all right to let him know how you feel, and that you're interested in more, and that I feel like if you do that this is going to actually accelerate pretty quickly. It's going to move very fast. Okay, with that, let me take a look here. I am kind of crashing a little bit, so I wanted to. Selassie, you're next, and then I'm going to have to really take a break because I need to get some fresh air, and it's getting pretty late So I hope that helped you out, Kemi. And Selassie, if you can let me know your question, we can take a look at that, and then I'm gonna have to kind of take a breather. No problem. You're welcome, Kemi. Selassie, are you still with us? And then who else from there? Okay, now if you guys are still with me, Bridget, Shanali, Sweet Raspberry, I've been running this for about 2.5 hours, and I really need to kind of take a breather. And so if I can maybe connect with you guys tomorrow, I'd be happy, and you guys would be first on the list tomorrow. I'm going to be doing these streams every day, sometimes twice a day, but every day. And if you want to know when I jump on live, just underneath here, click on the subscribe with the bell. If you don't do the bell, you won't be notified. But if you click on the bell, next time I go on live, you'll be notified, and then you could be first on the list as soon as that happens. Here we go. Carlos, okay. Great. Okay, so let's take a look at that. And so, Celeste, this is going to be my last reading for the evening. You're my last one. So just to be clear, you and Carlos met at school, and you want to know if you have some type of connection. Thank you so much, Bridget. I appreciate that. Just that you kind of jumped into the stream late, and I've already been on 2.5 hours, and I started a lot later tonight than I wanted to, and so I'll be happy to discuss that tomorrow. Just look for that notification as soon as I pop on live, and you could be first on the list tomorrow. Okay. Let's see here. Alrighty. Okay, there can be a relationship. It is possible. I mean, like it's available. It's possible. It's not something that is out of the scope of reality. It's not something that is just impossible. I do see there to be like he's not thinking that kind of right now. That's not directly in his mind, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that could happen. It just means it's not something he's actually thinking of right now. You'd be surprised how often that can take place where one or both parties don't even realize that you both kind of have a thing for each other. And so I'm kind of getting that vibe in respect to where he is right now. And I would say that it may take a little bit of a push on your end to move that forward. If you know that there's sort of a chemistry here that you want to explore, it wouldn't hurt to maybe involve him in that as well, communicate that as well. But I will say one of the cards that came up is the Lovers. This came up in the question, so that's a good thing. That said, though, there's definitely a possibility for there to be something there. It's going to require you maybe pushing a little bit, and I would say that it wouldn't hurt to kind of let him know that there's some stuff going on inside of you, and you want to maybe see if he's got the same thing going on. Don't be afraid to have that conversation with him. As far as there being a soulmate connection, from the cards that came up, I would say that there is a definite possibility that you two kind of knew each other at some point in the past. And so I would say the depth of that connection is something that maybe we can explore at another time at a deeper level. It's not that may take a little bit of time to get into that, but I would say yes. So to kind of reiterate, there is some type of connection. You two, there may have been a connection in the past, and there is a possibility of you getting of having more if that's something that you actually wanted. But I would say that you need to kind of take a step and maybe help communicate that, and let him know. You'd be surprised how effective that can be sometimes. Sometimes just saying, "Hey, I'd really like to get to know you better," can be really very powerful. Anyway, that said, I really appreciate everybody coming in tonight. I'm going to shut it down. I'm feeling pretty tired, and I'm kind of losing it, and so I don't want to. I want to be able to do it proper for the people that I'm doing the reading for. But thank you so much, and if you guys had a good time tonight, if you enjoyed what I'm doing here, and you kind of dig the vibe of the channel, I really would appreciate if you subscribed and hit that bell, and don't forget to share this with your friends. This is really how channels like this grow, is by making connections with people that help to connect with other people. And if there's anybody that you know that can use any of the services that I'm providing here, as far as a one-on-one reading or an astrology interpretation of the chart, I'd be happy to help you guys. Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody, for coming in tonight. I had a great time as usual. The chat was really fun. Couple ups and downs, but that's the experience that we live, isn't it? It's sort of like the human experience. But that said, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evenings and mornings, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm looking at trying to get on 10 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. So 10 p.m. Eastern is when I expect to be on again tomorrow. But if you hit that bell, you'll know right away as soon as I come on live immediately, and so we can go from there. So you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for sharing this night with me, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye now.